Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Feature Competition to Market, a True Story. Today's webinar will be recorded, and you'll receive a link to the recorded session within the next 24 hours. All attendees will be in listen-only mode. We'll be having a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Should you have any questions, please type them into the queue located on the right side of your screen. Presenting today will be Carl Engler, Ally PLM Solutions Regional Sales Manager, and Emil Kakan, PLM Strategy and Business Development Director for Mercury Marine. And now I'd like to introduce Carl Engler.
Hi, we are very excited to present to you an example of how product data management helps one company become more competitive. During this 45-minute webinar titled Feature Competition to the Market, a True Story, our goal is not just to talk to you at length about Siemens Teamcenter. We want to address some of the challenges companies like you face today by letting Mercury Marine tell their story of the competitive pressures that face them and how these issues were solved. Oh, the product that did this was Teamcenter. So let's look at the agenda. Hello, my name is Carl Engler, and I am with Ally PLM Solutions. I have been selling PLM solutions for 24 years, and I will be your host. And I thank you for being with us today. Joining me will be Emil Kakan from Mercury Marine, who will explain how Siemens Teamcenter helped improve their global operation and what the effects were. The lovely voice you heard at the beginning is Tracy, our marketing manager. She is responsible for getting you to be with us today. Now that you know us, I will next introduce you to our company, Ally PLM. Following that, we'll take a brief look at Siemens PLM and Teamcenter. Next, Emil Kakan will take over. And finally, we'll end with answering some of your questions. Often, competition in business is described as war. And in war, it's nice to have allies come to your aid. Well, we, Ally PLM, want to be your ally. Ally PLM is a product lifecycle management solutions provider. That's where the PLM comes from. We have extensive expertise in CAD, CAM, CAE, PDM, and technical documentation software. The engineering and manufacturing tools we sell are Siemens NX and Solid Edge for design, NX CAM and CAMWorks for manufacturing, NX CAE and FEMAP for engineering analysis, and of course Teamcenter for product data management. Not only do we sell the software mentioned above, we also provide training, support, mentoring, and consulting on these products as well. While most of our clients are in the eastern one half of the U.S., we have customers in the western half. We provide most of these services through our corporate office in Cincinnati, Ohio. Teamcenter is a product developed by Siemens PLM that supports product data management. Yes, there are other products out there, but why not use the leader? Siemens PLM products, including Teamcenter, are used by most of the automotive market. It has helped transform that industry. It is also strong in other industries as well. And here are just a few of Siemens PLM customers. Maybe you recognize one or two of them. So why should you be interested in product data management? Companies, like yourselves, produce products to make profit. But controlling the variables that affect this is key. Teamcenter can help you control those variables by managing the underlying data. But instead of going into Teamcenter in great detail, we will focus on a real-life example. Then, if you wish to know more about Teamcenter, we'll be happy to provide a detailed presentation to you. Emil, take it away.
Thank you, Carl. Again, my name is Emil Kakan, the Strategy and Business Development Director for Mercury Marine. And today, Today I will walk you through Mercury Marine's real-life example of PLM and how it helped Mercury Marine propel its business forward. A little overview. Mercury Marine is a company founded in 1939. Our product brands include the following: Mercury and Mariner outboard engines, Merc Cruiser, stern drive and inboard engines, Mercury Racing, high performance, outboard and stern drives, inflatable boats, Smartcraft electronics, Quicksilver parts, and Mercury PLM services. Mercury implemented Team Center in 2005, and our implementation includes the following. We have several additional modules on top of the standard Team Center implementation. We support 10 locations in 3 different countries and currently have over 600 users in our system. Tracy, I have an issue. I can't advance.
Okay, that's no problem. There you go.
Got it. Apologies. A little overview of the presentation today. Part of the purpose here is to share the value of product lifecycle management at Mercury Marine. The importance, as many companies have positioned themselves for growth throughout 2014, managers are looking for opportunities to make their new products and programs at lower risk without adding unaffordable or scarce professionals. Today's agenda will walk through Mercury's challenge, examples of PLM benefits and program management, and the importance of the PLM roadmap. Mercury's challenges continue to arise through every day. Currently, we're #1 in our field, and we're competing against some of the premier engine developing companies in the world, such as Yamaha, Suzuki, Honda, and Volvo. Mercury must continue to be cost competitive with these emerging markets and these new entrants, especially the Chinese markets. Portfolio planning is critical. There is no room for mistakes. Inventory management is mandatory. Pressure on efficient use of product development money is critical. Mercury's challenges first came around with the change in the 2-stroke outboard market, which started to become a 4-stroke market early in 2002, 2003, with Yamaha, Suzuki, and Honda dominating those markets at that time. Mercury's challenges were to convert 48 products in 60 months. And with the realization that our current systems and processes were going to be difficult to support such an on-taking. And that's when we started what we called our business transformation, or our PLM deployment. Here's a look at what Mercury's outlay looks like. In 2005, when we went live with our first Team Center deployment, we had 1,200 users across 10 facilities in 3 different countries. We launched 48 products in 60 months with an average of greater than 500 parts per bill of material. In order to start this implementation, there needed to be a fundamental understanding of what data was going to reside in which enterprise system. In Mercury's case, we had PLM, ERP, and CRM. The data was broken out as such: items, bill of materials, the change management process, product data management, process data management, document management would all be solely housed within the PLM environment, with supplier collaboration crossing over into the ERP environment. With this data, we then had to break this down into additional detail to understand how that data worked across the enterprise or throughout a stage-gated process. So we needed to understand the data type and where the relationships of this data type would be. We have PLM and ERP here, where this data mainly resides. And throughout the life of a project, we have what's called transient data. Within these, we broke these out and understood the attributes associated and the file types that were needed. Information that resided solely in our PLM system with the attributes such as weight, material, part ID, part description, and the files associated to that would be our CAD models, our drawings, our specifications, manufacturing work instructions, quality plans, FMEAs, etc. Transient data or project data required throughout the life cycle of the project, but not required once gone into production. There's not a requirement to maintain revision control on this data, but required in order to maintain or facilitate collaboration throughout the project. The attributes in our case were such as prototype engine builds, drawing release dates, the buyer associated to the components, the quality engineers, the target cost. These files included project plans, meeting minutes, gate reviews, management presentations. And as far as our transactional, which is our ERP system, attributes such as PO, final product, export data, order numbers, job numbers, and associated files to those such as POs, ARs or capital acquisitions, warranty claims, and invoices. With the understanding of this data and then laying it out, what this enabled was the transparency of communication and collaboration throughout the gates. Between gate reviews, PLM provides the transparency which enables this communication and collaboration, and from the collaboration we get innovation. When do we do it and how do we do it? In this case, as we start with the voice of the customer, the need puts the process in motion. The first step is to pull the part number. As the project progresses, team members create data, they consume data, and make adjustments as needed throughout the process. Key people maintain that connectivity throughout the project. Part of the deployment was a change process. In Mercury's previous change process, it was 2 electronic systems followed by a manual hand-carried system. This created a problem of lack of configuration management and change control. So facilitating this cross-functional change communication provides the platform for discussion between facilities and functions. Anyone in their organization can initiate a change process. Change processes and workflows are common at all locations. This was not the case prior to PLM. Each location had its own change process and its own systems in order to facilitate and manage these changes. Product program managers direct change traffic within the change board. The change, in our case, reduced our average change time in the system of 56 days down to 22 days. Some of the lessons learned throughout this was to be flexible, let the business lead. Business owns processes in the system. PLM team members are enablers within the system. They trust that the outcome is the best for the company. Downstream use of design data. The ability to provide 3D CAD data for downstream users is critical. In the past, this would only be done by a CAD user or an engineer or designer. Non-CAD users needed to take up the time of an engineer in order to get certain snapshots of any kind of 3D data, especially from the technical group, manufacturing, supply chain, etc. In today's deployment, with Team Center and the lightweight viewables, JTs, with the JT Viewer, anybody with access to the JT Viewer has access to the 3D data, which is current and live within the system. Standard data structure. Having a standard product design structure allows for common process to flow from item to manufacturability. Common structure provides a methodology for program designs and establishes the ability to efficiently reuse information. Information and design structure can flow seamlessly to the downstream users. It provides the ability to see precise, locked, or latest working bills of material to enhance that collaboration. Rollout using a single pilot program that is highly visible and critical to the organization's success, because this will take out the kinks in the process and will refine it much faster. In our case, we created a common template for quickly structuring our products. As you can see in the diagram, we have the base engine, peripherals, electrical, transom, which is broken up actually in our functional groups. What this does, it improved the downstream ability to locate these parts, and it created a consistent structure for user interaction. You will see an example of this in a few later slides. One way to manage a program, in our case, was through the giant Excel spreadsheet. This spreadsheet was very difficult to manage and often had a lot of gaps and created issues. The issues here arise from information residing in other disparate systems, and that information being pulled from one system to be then populated into this spreadsheet, which made it very difficult to maintain and update. Once an update was done, the spreadsheet was probably already outdated as a change had been made somewhere else without the knowledge of that individual. This also facilitated issues where items were missed on the spreadsheet, as sometimes as a design is going through that collaborative process. In our past, the disparate systems did not allow for people to see when new parts or components were added to a design, and they would be missed and caught at a later date, which would then affect the cost roll-ups, the weight roll-ups, assigning a buyer to it, release dates, and so on. The requirement to connect people manifests itself in what Mercury had put together as a parts planning application. What this allowed us to do was to take data from our enterprise systems, such as Team Center Engineering and our ERP system, and provide a single view in Team Center Community or SharePoint. It's CAD-driven, it's connected to ERP, and it's a single source of the truth. It's an area where data does not have to be re-entered manually, pulled from one system to enter here. It is automatically pulled from these enterprise systems, and a view is provided to the project team, mainly to the program manager. As you can see in this chart, you can see there is a new to the far left, which would then alert a program manager a new item has been added to his bill of material, which could then facilitate the required discussion to a particular individual or to a particular manager in a function without getting the whole team together to understand the cost change. What does this mean? More options means better decisions. In the previous chart, you're able, with a single source of the truth and data organized in a structured manner, you're able to generate reports. This is an example report out of the system, which is basically showing all the different functional groups from base engine to the drivetrain and everything in between in terms of their cost and how they're tracking towards their cost. The red line is the cost for that given sector, that given function for that particular project, with the blue line that is showing how the cost is being driven throughout the project. This is a great piece of information for a program manager to truly understand where his project is at. He can quickly zero in on groups that are overdriving the cost, groups that are underdriving the cost. He can also tell whether or not his project's being worked on. A flat line generally means that no work is being done. A line that's going up and down is generally stating that engineers are working on his program. This facilitates the appropriate communication for a project. A program manager can now go directly to a given functional group or to a particular individual and have a very efficient conversation and understand what the issues are, and then can move on without having team meetings every week. Part reuse allows us to optimize designs and accelerate the development cycle. Mercury's main issue in this case was the non-solidified or non-consolidated standards parts library. This information resided on hard disks, sometimes in file folders. Each division or program was reinventing parts. Common part reuse capabilities allow the following benefits. Multiple Team Center can use the same common parts and designs. Supply chain can order a single part in bulk for all locations. This also contributes to a modular design of assembly, faster product development, easier servicing. Lessons learned throughout this process. Start slow and work into it. Take common fasteners as the first cut, then have a plan to work through everything else. Small wins along the way are key. A common structure and process provide the foundation for cross-functional collaboration tools. And the other main point here is that any new common parts that need to be entered into the system must go through a change process and have to be approved at the manager or director level in order to enter a new common part into the system. Managing all product and process content in Team Center. The need was to manage engineering-related CAD-like tools, such as the die-cast molds, machining code, and tool assemblies. The problem in the past is these were all done off to a side in a different file system by the various groups. As engineering changes went through the system, some of these would be missed, and sometimes it would be costly at the end of the day, obviously, to make a change to a tool part. The solution was to use a common data vault for any product or process-related data. And this data would all reside under the item type within the engineering design within the Team Center environment that then again provided this collaborative workway with groups, with the different groups outside of the engineering world. How did Mercury go about doing this? We needed to pull our data from all our disparate systems into Team Center. What you're seeing here is where our data is in the first couple slides as I discussed about understanding the data and then breaking the data down. Our ERP system managed our items. Our intranet managed our specification documents. Our hard disks had everything from supplier specifications to material specifications, 2D product models, 3D lightweight viewables, CAD files, attributes. All this information was then brought into Team Center to provide that single source of the truth or single repository where all could see this data, which then provided a much more collaborative environment and the ability to pull data to provide and develop reports such as I showed in the last previous slides. How did we get there? Part of the roadmap in order to get there is understanding. It's the alignment of the organization. We start off at the top level and then quickly work down to what we would lay out as a 2B process where we work with directors, managers, and the process owners. Once that 2D process has been defined, we go down to what we call the Tier 3 levels, the key functional leads and the key users. We map out the processes within the technology and work closely with these groups. These groups, or these Tier 3 users, they become the stakeholders in the project. They actually walk through with us throughout the life cycle of the project, from concept to user acceptance testing to production go live. They are actually the owners of the projects. We end up being the enablers. One of the fundamental milestones in terms of PLM implementation is having a PLM roadmap and understanding where the business wants to go. The foundation is the key level. As we have discussed in the previous slide, the assessment, the cross-functional process definition. Through that, we start identifying the items in the document definition, the CAD modules, the lightweight viewables, the 2D drawings, the CAD integrations required, the large assembly management structures. Once that information has been identified and understood, it can then start to be mapped into the core applications. In our case, Team Center, and then we use Team Center along with ERP and SharePoint in order to create a collaborative environment and a cross-functional visibility for all our teams. The high percentage of the total cost is in the foundation. The high percentage of the value is in the process layers that come above, the information that can be reused as you go through the development process. How global PLM creates business value. At Mercury, the gray bars represent the 2003 calculated ROI return on a Team Center implementation with change management included. They were estimated. In 2010, we went back and recalculated the ROI based off of information that we've collected over 5 years of a Team Center implementation. Our largest area of value came in our bill of material management, our documents, our change management, and even our projects. All of these things added to the efficiency and the ability for Mercury to turn around product much quicker in the marketplace and also do it with a much smaller team than what we had in the past.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Carl. I'd like to remind all attendees, if they have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question queue located on the right of their screen. Let's see if we have any questions here. It looks like, here's one. I hear Team Center is really expensive. Is that for only for large companies?
I'll take that one. I'll give Emma a rest. This is Carl Engler. Not true. While a lot of large companies do use Team Center, small to medium-sized businesses can't afford to implement this PDM system. Because it's been in the industry for a while, there's economies that can be done so that it can be very, financially manageable to implement.
Okay. Second question. Why does it take many days, often several weeks, to implement PDM? We installed our CAD system ourselves in less than a day.
I'll take that one, Tracy. This is MOK Can here. There are two fundamental differences there. CAD is a single enclosed environment that gets loaded in one spot that comes pre-configured because it's a CAD tool. And the only requirement there then is the training on that specific CAD tool. Where Team Center implementation, as I described in the previous number of slides there, it requires configuration. And in order to properly configure the system, there's a requirement to obtain that process and system, that process knowledge from the organization in order to obtain the requirement. And once that requirement is obtained, then you can go ahead and start to configure the system. But the configuration of the system needs to go through various checkpoints, and those are usually called conference room pilots, right to user acceptance testing, and then you can go to a production go live. And that's why these, the implementation of Team Center could take up to several weeks, much more than a CAD installation would take.
Thank you. Another question, do you need to hire a full-time Team Center administrator?
Emma, take that.
Yes, I'll take that. Thanks, Carl. It depends on the size of your organization. Is probably where it would start. Is it a full-time Team Center administrator requirement? Not necessarily. Deployments that are probably 20 or less, Team Center administrator would only be required for maybe 10% throughout the course of the year. His roles would vary from adding users, deleting users, maybe making some security changes, maybe pushing a workflow that got stuck in the system, but a full-time Team Center administrator would not be required in many cases.
Okay. Next question. What was the CAD cleansing task like with so many locations working independently?
Well, that's got to be you, Emil.
And that was, just so that I want to make sure I heard the question correctly, it was CAD cleansing?
CAD cleansing, yep.
It was, I will be honest, it was monumental. Mercury Marine is a pro engineer house that has been running Pro-E since, I believe it was 1992 is when it came in. And what made it so monumental were all the different, what I would call CAD management techniques, CAD management creation techniques throughout the years, and then the requirement to bring all that data from our current Pro Intralink environment into Team Center. And we had a lot of naming issues that we had to overcome. There was a lot of stuff in there that was like Joe's part, Bob's engine block, things like that, but were actually required data. So there was a lot of upfront cleansing required from Mercury. But there's many different ways to do it. You know, one of the first questions that I would have for any company that wanted to do data migration, and the answer is everything. The first question is why? And then if there's a good reason why, then you have to start looking at it. And then there's different ways. You could look at latest released. You could look at bringing a program over at a time. It is never an easy task because there's what we usually find in the data migration process is the standards were not consistent throughout the life of the CAD tool at the client company.
Okay, thank you, Emil. Our next question is, how is the Mercury PLM Ally relationship managed for a large-scale Team Center implementation?
Carl, do you want to take that one?
Carl, I think you might be muted right now.
Yes, you were. I was trying to make sure that I kept background noise at a minimum. Yes, that's a very good question. Both Ally PLM and Mercury Marine have very well-defined roles in our partnership. Ally PLM primarily is sort of the account representative. We also would manage and sell the licenses and any other software peripheral licenses that would be needed. When it comes to pure implementation and the services, that would then fall to Mercury Marine. But in the process, we would both keep communicating back and forth. The customer is allowed to talk to both of us. The idea being is we're acting as one.
Thank you. Emil, this one is for you. Can you share an anecdote or two about how Mercury has been more successful against its competitors in the market as a result of its Team Center deployment?
I can speak in generalities here. Part of our success rate in the market, as you've seen going through the presentation where I showed managing a project in a giant Excel spreadsheet as opposed to managing a project in what we call our parts planning application that pulls live data in. What that allowed us to do was when we went into target costs, it allowed us to get into our target costs within a very specific small percentage range. And it also kept all our projects on time with no major overruns in dates because we didn't miss anything throughout the project. Things were captured throughout and things were tracked throughout. So what this enabled us to do was get to the marketplace at the time that we said we would, at the cost that we said we would.
All right, I think we have one last question here. If the basic architecture for Team Center was delivered in 2002, isn't it old now? How many folks from Siemens and Mercury does it take to maintain the system?
That's yours, Emil.
Yeah, could you, Tracy, sorry, I lost you just a little bit there. Could you repeat the
Sure.
question? I think I got it, but I just want to hear it one more time.
Okay. If the basic architecture for Team Center was delivered in 2002, isn't it old now? Also, how many folks from Siemens and Mercury does it take to maintain the system?
Okay. In Mercury's environment, it takes no folks from Siemens to maintain the system. We are self-sufficient. We have roughly 1.5 heads allocated to maintain our PLM implementation. That's within 3 countries and 10 facilities. The architecture itself, Mercury is currently on 9.1. We will be upgrading to 10.1 in the next several months here. But to answer that question, I think that's the answer that they were looking for. So it's about 1.5 heads that we require to maintain our system.
Okay, great, thank you. Doesn't look like we have any more questions at this time. So we hope you enjoyed the webinar with Mercury Marine and you realize how Team Center can benefit you. If you have further questions or would like more information, please reach out to Carl Engler. We could just advance the slide. It will show Carl's contact information, and his information will also be included in the follow-up email you'll be receiving within the next 24 hours. Thank you, Carl and Emil, for presenting today, and I'd also like to thank everybody for joining us.